I'm gonna go ahead and call this meeting to order since it's 2 o'clock, time to roll. And today's Wednesday, November 13th, HRB meeting. We have one item on the agenda. We have a packed room. So we'll let the staff introduce this project and we'll go from there.
Hey, Mike, it's Maria. Do you need to do the meeting minutes?
Well, we would, but we don't have any.
We got them ahead of time and they looked good to me. Did anybody else? Yeah, we didn't bring our copies, but,
I didn't
Got
get
it
the email with it.
electronically.
oh, you didn't? Did you look at them online?
I looked at them, but I wasn't here last time, so
Oh, that's
I
right.
think your notes.
I guess if I'm gonna approve them, I need to see it. Everybody else seen it besides me?
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay. Alrighty, well, if you guys have read it, I'm doing a quick read. Do you have any problems with it? We'll go ahead and entertain the minutes and a motion to support the minutes. Or not.
Well, I was not here, so I will.
You'd
not
abstain.
Abstain for that.
I make,
Anybody have any revisions?
I don't.
All right, somebody make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
I will second that.
We have motion and second for the minutes. Hearing no further discussion, we'll vote. Abstention at the end.
Aye.
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 Okay. That tactical issue is over. Now we'll move into staff and thank you for reminding us we have minutes.
Let's get work done.
Let me put it on. This is 1110 Green Street. It's in the T4HN district. You've heard this. This has gone through the full gauntlet of the, I guess, of the HRB process. So he's come before HTRC earlier this year. Then he came for conceptual in, I believe, June. Is that right? And then he got his preliminary approval in October. And so you can see the progression of this project in your packet where you have basically what the conditions or recommendations were at the last meeting. So each time he's kind of progressed, and that's on page 2. So you can see that on the October 9th meeting, there were really 6 conditions and recommendations. And those included the chimney design was kind of the main focus, I think. Final cut sheets, final colors on siding, changing out the windows from vinyl to a more appropriate material as per the preservation manual, so wood clad or fiberglass clad. Brackets on the rear elevations and really that garage and driveway of the alley has to be improved. So since then, as you see in your packet, he's provided final cut sheets on all of those materials. He's also changed, and I think Maria put up the chimney design as per, I guess, the recommendations of this meeting. And provided, final materials, final colors on everything. And, with that, I don't know if I need to go through all of the integrities, the 7 integrities, but I don't even see HBF here. So obviously they're, I think, not having a concern here, but the 3 conditions with the final approval that the staff's recommending is that the alley should be approved. And I know he's already been in contact with us. And so essentially he'd just have to throw down some gravel or something because the city owns the alley, but we're okay with that. So that's a condition. Just clarify the material on the overhead garage door selection. And also that the clarify if the HVAC unit encroaches over the east setback. So believe he felt like it doesn't. So I think we've got that settled. Is that right? So I believe he's also planning on maybe screening it with landscaping, but I'll let him get to that. But otherwise, I think, and also there was a sheet for that window sent to you this morning or yesterday. I can't remember which one.
Just this morning.
This
Wasn't
morning.
part of the packet.
Mhm.
So just remember that, but otherwise, we would recommend approval of the project. So
There it
again, this is for a new house with the accessory dwelling unit and garage on a lot that has not been developed, that we can find from the Sanborn maps in the Northwest quadrant. So with that, I'll shut up and give it to Mr. Simpson.
Great, we'll let the applicant come forward and tell us what changes he made since the last meeting and where he believes he's at.
First, I'd like to say, just because I'm the only one on the itinerary does not mean you should overthink this or look too closely. So just,
We have lots of time.
Yeah.
okay, so actually, yeah, the alley, I think is not an issue. We made the changes on the fireplace that you've seen. In a conversation with Lise, who's not here, apparently they would actually prefer metallic stovepipe and 8-inch stovepipe over the sort of faux brick chimney chase, which I am fine with, but I don't think, I would actually prefer that, but I don't know that you all are okay with that. So that's something to consider. I'll do whatever you all want me to do, but that would be my preference and apparently her preference. And I just noticed the garage door question is painted metal to look like barn doors okay, or does it, is it just a question of it being vinyl an issue, or?
If I could answer that, with Jeremy and I, when we were looking at the, sorry, here in the ether, Maria with Metters, when we were looking at it, we just had a concern about, if it was a vinyl or some composite material, that it would have the faux wood grain siding that sometimes we see garage doors and regular pedestrian doors have. So that's really what the comment was about, just making sure that it doesn't have like any faux wood grain texture or anything like that. But yeah, I think a metal garage door, painted metal door is totally fine, at least from our, staff architect perspective. So if that clears it
Right.
up.
Thank you. And I guess the only other thing that I would mention was the HVAC. I'm of course happy to use landscaping or even a fence if necessary to just hide that. I'm assuming that the condenser will not be so wide that it will encroach on the 5-foot setback. If it is, I can move it around to the back of the house to avoid the encroachment, but I'm aware of the problem. So
Okay. That's it?
I think so.
All right, so we'll have a couple things to discuss up here. Well, first, we'll let the public comment if there's anyone in the public wish to speak to this project. Anyone online?
No, sir.
Okay, so the public comment period's been opened and it's getting ready to close. Yeah, go ahead and sit down. I mean, this is gonna be casual when we have one applicant today. We'll close the public comment period and bring it up to the board. And there were the 3 items that were discussed, I think were still questions. We need to nail those down. And one would be the chimney makeup, the other would be the garage door. And the third was the
The
windows.
HVAC encroachment. Oh,
Oh, the encroachment, let me
but
speak
that
to,
seems to have been solved.
let me speak that in a minute. There's certain items can be in the encroachment and staff have to clarify this, but the HVAC, I think, is the one that's allowed to be in the encroachment, in the 5-foot setback.
Surprisingly, there's nothing in the code that allows that, but I can, something we'll probably add to the code edit session, which is taking a little longer, but, we haven't gotten to that point, but, I can give an administrative variance for some of it that I think he's already, from talking to Mr. Simpson, I think, he'll be able to meet the setback. And if he needs a little tiny bit of space, I can administratively give it to him.
Yeah, that's fine. Look, that's not a big deal really, in the sense of we typically have ACs, all right? We typically put them on the side of the house. We typically put them in the setbacks that's prevailing, that's available. And then we typically require some type of screening from the street. If you can see it from the roadway, we typically require screening. There is no physical requirement for physical structure, so landscaping meets the requirement, okay, based on our code. So if you landscape it and you can't see, the intent is to not see modern conveniences like satellite dishes and ACs and things like that, that normally wouldn't have been, cluttering up the views of some of these structures, but, things have changed a little bit. So I don't think it's an issue with AC. Y'all want to speak to any other items related? Let's talk about the chimney then, for example. It's going back and forth about the chimney.
Yeah, I wasn't here at the last one. I was here at the first one where we gave the conceptual approval. I don't remember if it was at which of those two the chimney was brought up.
Maria, do you happen to have the old plans? Or
I can-
you find them?
Yeah,
Was-
I can find those really quick.
Yeah,
Well,
just
while
give
you're
her a
do-
minute. and
Yeah,
you-
while you're doing that, I remember that the first application had a exposed round metal pipe, which was pushback given by staff and by HBF, that I remember.
That's what I thought, yep.
And so we asked them to go back and kind of rethink this, and so he came back with a different design, and then there was some discussion about it, and I don't even remember what the last one was, but the applicant was to go out and look at a few examples, and then make a decision which route he wanted to go. It looked like in this case, he's internally done the firebox, and nothing protrudes outside the envelope of the main structure of the house, and it penetrates the roof. In this case, he'd be forced to cover that upper section with some type of material, and he's listed it as a faux brick.
Yeah,
So-
that was some concern. There was also concern that the metal pipe was not found anywhere else in the district.
Exactly.
So there was the building code concerns there, and there was also that historic preservation concern.
I remember you presented a picture of another construction that had the metal stovepipe at the first one.
Wasn't it your house somewhere else or?
I
Yeah.
did, and the initial one was for a fire, a prefab fire, and so it was a much larger pipe. And with the most recent changes, I've decided just to do a small wood burning stove, which would only require a 6-inch diameter pipe or 8-inch with the insulation, which is what apparently the historic Beaufort preferred for whatever reason, which I'm fine with. But so those would be the two options, what's on the drawing versus an 8-inch diameter steel pipe, but it would be the same height as is depicted here.
Well, one of those pictures shows a box around the flue pipe without penetrating past the end of the rafter tails. The other one shows it on the exterior of the building all the way to the ground level.
Right.
So those are the two, I guess, the two choices you're asking us about.
We nixed anything protruding out of.
So no bump out. So that one's gone. Okay.
Most current one is, yeah, just protruding from the roof with no bump.
I think that's what we asked him to do, so.
Yeah. Well, I,
I think we stick with that. I mean, I hate going back and
Speak
forth and
of,
back
uh,
and forth.
I won't say the other, but she also had the packet up, and that was a recommendation last time.
okay.
I think with the last one, there was an issue with the materials as well, and the fact that the roof was wrapping around the box.
Yes,
What the
yes,
issue was.
the
He
wraparound.
changed
Mhm.
that, as you can see.
But I
Yeah.
see no indication of there being any sort of a fire stove or anything in the plan, which makes me think that looks really odd. I think it looks kind of weird because it's flush with the outside wall, or appears to be. It makes it look more fake to me.
You talking about the one that's in the upper left?
The chimney that's proposed right now.
So
She'd like to.
well, hang on, we're not ready to bring her up yet. Just breathe. But look, for our discussion purposes, this bounced around quite a bit.
Yeah,
I think the issue we're facing at the moment is that after the fact, it came back with a faux brick material for wrapping the upper structure.
And the
So
roof
the-
wrapping around it.
Well, it just wraps from the chimney line, from the roof deck up. So
Mhm.
that, and it, typically it would have been, a wood burning stove would have had a real brick chimney sticking up just like that,
Mhm.
right? And that would be appropriate. Applicant structurally, I mean, and cost wise, he's trying to do an alternative material. Right? So I think it's listed as synthetic brick veneer on a board. I think that's what we're asking for.
not a veneer, yeah.
Yeah, thin brick.
Yeah,
Okay,
I actually took some photos of several others on the same block or within a block, the same way, although they're a real brick chimney, but they're also no bump out. They're just in the middle of the roof, as is typical of the period. If I can pull those up if you want.
So I think what I'm thinking here is the only issue here is we've allowed it before. It's actually been done on very historic properties, okay? The churches down on Craven Street, for example, they did a restoration on a project some years back, and they were approved by the board back then to do, which I'm not gonna like or dislike, but they did brick veneer, same stuff, thin brick applied to cinder block appears to make it appear to be real brick. So not that that's a precedent-setting moment, but the reality is, you know, I look at things at how they last the test of time. Will this chimney stay, you know, how's it constructed? Will it be there 15, 20, 30 years from now, as opposed to being a problem? And so there's several ways you can handle this. The applicant is asked to do the stovepipe originally, stovepipe outside the perimeter of the house originally. We recommended, he actually gave us a rendition of a enclosure with lap siding, all the way up, a typical chimney, which you see on a modern home today. And then today we see this chimney with the box just on the roof deck going up, appearing to be an old brick chimney. So the question, I think, it really is, if we go this route, is it okay to do a brick veneer material? And I want to hear y'all's thoughts on that. No brick, fake brick. Still, it's brick.
But it's new construction.
It's new construction.
It's in the northwest quadrant. I don't see a reason why not.
Okay, that's all I was asking, is get an opinion.
I don't really have an issue with brick
Okay.
veneer.
Yeah, I don't.
All right, so we have a kind of a census, because it's at the board discussion level now. I'm gonna let HBF rep opine on reasons why they had some comments on it, since you weren't here. So Ms. Sunderdale, would you like to address us? The comment was made, so you know where we are, was that HBF thought that the pipe would be better than the brick when you
okay.
walked in.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I do apologize for being late. It was like 2:04 and I was like, oh my God, and ran out the door. Can I quickly introduce our newest staff member, Libby Cohen. She just joined us on Monday and we're just delighted to have her with us. She will be our preservation, education, and program coordinator. So delighted to have Libby with us. So, thank you. And hello, Edward. The committee met with Edward and we've been meeting with Edward, for the last several months on this project. And it has evolved a great deal from what y'all originally saw and what we originally saw. My asthma kicked in. So, I think we were pleased with the direction it was going, and then saw the chimney on Friday. And I think we had the same reservations that y'all had, with regard to the chimney, and mainly your comment that it's kind of just sticking there. And we didn't feel that it really was sympathetic to what you could find within the district. And Edward and I had had an earlier telephone conversation about doing instead just the stovepipe coming up. And our committee discussed that and would be absolutely happy with the stovepipe idea versus putting up a chimney that really looked like it was floating and out of place, and did have that fake veneer on it. But instead, just to see the pipe coming up, they felt would be more in keeping with the district and with the thought, rather than creating something that may or may not someday be a stove or be a chimney, because he wasn't quite sure what he wanted to do with it. And the other thought was, well, just don't do anything at all with that and wait until you need it, and then come back and offer a stovepipe or a chimney if you decide you're going to do a full fireplace. So I think that's where we were on that particular question. Is that?
Yeah, that answers the question. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we did have a couple of other comments, but he reworked them. One was the size of the windows and how those fit both on the carriage structure as well as the house. We thought they should be complementary with each other. So thank you very much.
Okay. All right, so back to the conversation about the floating chimney. One of the interesting things is that typically a wood burning stove from the era of of our common, of that neighborhood, you wouldn't see a full brick chimney outside the house. In the 1950s, 60s, it would have been a chimney penetrating through the middle of the roof system somewhere. It would not have been a foundation outside the footprint. So irony is that's appropriate look for the application. Now, if it had been a big wood burning heating fireplace, it would be different possibly based on the firebox size. So if it's just a wood burning stove, like a kitchen, the rear addition kitchens that were done on these buildings after they were built often had a little 18 by 18 inch square or 20 by 20 square straight up through the middle of a room, that was not penetrating outside the building. So it would look just like this. So I don't have a problem with the aesthetics of this. And I think that the board hadn't had a problem with the brick. So the question for the board now really is stovepipe or brick?
Have we seen a stovepipe anywhere in the district? Name one. I mean, because I don't know of any.
I think addresses, but, you can find them in the northwest quadrant.
Yeah, you might find them on like
Yeah.
some odd, I mean, I don't know of any that stands out
Yeah.
as being anything other than an afterthought.
Right, and they're not tall. They're
Right.
Not, tall and obtrusive at all. It could, I'm probably not, you can measure better than me, Mike, but you're probably talking about something
Can't,
sticking up, because,
the code requires.
the code
height.
now versus what the code was then.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, in order for him to meet the intent of the building code, in addition to the aesthetic value, he has to raise that up.
Okay,
And it would end up being, that was a comment made in the first meeting.
Yeah.
oh, okay,
Oh,
gotcha.
Could be
Yeah.
detailed.
Yeah,
That
so
it was
it's gonna
gonna be
be up there. It
Okay.
has to surpass the ridge line by a certain height.
Yeah, I still don't think that it would be as obtrusive as the floating chimney, though. It's that floating chimney seems out of place, because the other recommendation, which had been made by Jeremy at HTRC several, generations before, was if you're going to do an exterior chimney, then don't let it be included within the roof line, which it originally was, and have it, the whole come out on the exterior of the building and be brick or be stucco, like you would normally see versus being paneled at all. And we were 100% for that at that time. But as this has evolved and gone this direction, just going with the stovepipe seemed to be the better design option at this point, from our perspective.
All right, very good. All right, I'm not real pleased with the stovepipe piece myself.
Neither am I. Due to the height, it'll
I have
have
a
to be.
question that you might be able to answer.
Hang on, bring it back to the board. Hang on just a minute.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So let's just say he went with stovepipe. He would need the height to surpass the ridge line if he was actually using it as a chimney, correct? So is it possible that he could start with something that's shorter, that isn't quite as obtrusive, that can be extended at some point?
No, codes don't work that way. It's black and
Okay.
white. It's either you do it right or you don't do it.
Okay.
So that's a code compliance question. He's drawn it on this drawing showing the code required height of the chimney. It's on there. If you look close, you'll see
Yeah.
there's a number. I can't read it from here. but
Yeah.
there's
Yeah,
a-
no, I see that.
Anyways, that's the same height the stovepipe would have to be.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that would look awkward to me, seeing a 6 or 8 inch pipe just stand alone up there. Plus it needs to be braced off. So it'd have to have a backstay on it, from the stove company. So I think,
May I add something?
yes, go ahead and,
Interrupt.
you're on it. Go ahead and ask us a question.
I would definitely prefer to do a stovepipe, just personally aesthetically. In my experience, I actually haven't had to do a brace off for them. They're really rigid interlocking stainless steel insulated pipe. You probably are familiar with them. And they're pretty rigid, and they fasten inside the structure of the house. And I have not had to date. Doesn't mean that it wouldn't take some damage potentially in a hurricane, but I've done it several times and haven't had a problem to date, for whatever that's worth.
Okay, well.
In a hurricane zone area? Have you done those in a hurricane area?
Look, that's a code compliant issue. I'm gonna tell you right now, I've never been able to get away with something like that, and that's fine. Aesthetically, I think for me, less about code compliance is aesthetics of it. I don't agree with HPS thoughts on stovepipe being more aesthetic pleasing to something traditional to Beaufort. Now, it to me actually diminishes the house aesthetics a little bit and makes it feel more like a cabin.
Yeah.
And less about an urban center residential home. So I don't know where we're going with this. Lisa, I'll let you ask one more thing if you want to. Go ahead.
No, it's not asked. I think if y'all choose not to go with the stovepipe and to go with a chimney, I think our druthers would be to shift back to Jeremy's original recommendation of, if it's going to be a chimney, create it like an exterior chimney, all the way down with either brick or stucco, and do it that way. And rather than it be floating where it is currently on the top.
So let me ask you something. You've said that a couple times now.
Yes.
Do you disagree with me that there's lots of homes built in that time period, in early time period, they're now considered historic, that have wood burning stove
Mhm.
like standing through the middle of the chimney?
I didn't hear you say that. I'm sorry. I
Look,
didn't,
you guys are stating, or some group
Okay.
is stating that looked like a floating chimney off the roof, when in
Right.
fact, I can go down and point out a half dozen of them
okay.
that are all over town. That
Okay.
were built in the fifties and sixties where they put a wood burning stove in a
Okay.
house.
I misunderstood what you were saying.
They
I'm
created a
sorry.
chimney through the roof, so I
Yeah.
don't want to miss.
No, now that I hear what you're saying about that, I thought it was an either or kind of a situation. I'm comfortable with that. Thank you for clarifying.
All right.
I don't see a reason to step backwards in either scenario. I think it would be hard to justify saying no to a stovepipe based on that presentation. I think it'd be very difficult and maybe inappropriate to say no to this, given everything we've heard and seen. So that's where I stand on it.
Well, this is an architectural review board. This is about aesthetics,
Yeah.
right? It's on new construction. It's in the northwest quadrant neighborhood, the conservation neighborhood. So the levels should be a little bit less restrictive, right? Material choices are very similar, though.
Well, we agreed on the material choices. We agreed, I think your point was made very well, that this is very common to what you would have seen in the fifties, sixties. So I think what's presented is perfectly appropriate.
Okay, well, I agree. Nice.
I agree.
All right, anything else we got to discuss on this particular project? The garage door, staff recommends okay with the metal door painted, smooth, non-wood grain. The window choices were corrected. And staff's okay with the window choices.
Yeah.
Staff's recommending approval as it's designed. And we've heard, that's the only changes we've heard, right?
Right, I think color choices needed to be provided. Oh, did he? Oh, okay.
Purple?
Periwinkle.
And 100 pages of Anderson window cut sheets. Thanks for that.
Okay.
I did see that.
It's like a,
All right, this seems like there was opportunity for either more discussion or a motion.
I make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
I'll second that.
All right, we have motion second on the table. Any other discussion? None down here, none down there. I don't have any other things to say about it, so call the question.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Okay. So you have your project as it was submitted today. Thanks. Thank you, okay. Well, I will say that you got a pretty simple project. You've been here 3 times. I think you got it right. Thank you for your patience, though.
Yeah, it started in June.
Was the stuff that there was in the packet, a couple pages about new deck materials. Was that part of the minutes or was that part of a separate discussion?
Minutes.
So that was part of the
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah, we didn't have a
Yeah.
packet. We didn't have a packet this time, so.
Yeah, there wasn't anything
I
extra.
had comments to make.
So we'll let,
I thought we were gonna have it.
But you like that direction, so we're now using it.
So I looked at the new applications and the stuff about the new deck materials, and what was the second one? There was
Windows?
Deck materials and, the roofs. I thought we were gonna discuss that, but that was part of the minutes.
That was the last.
Okay.
meeting. Were you not here at the last one?
No, I was not.
It was in
Oh, no
Mexico.
wonder it went so smoothly here. Wonder.
Yeah, we're-
I'm just kidding.
So Kurt, what you have up here on this is great information here on the metal roofing guidelines, and then it goes on to the Turner metal and the standing seam roofs, and it talks last thing, which is the big contention over the years, the snap lock, and it spells out specifically where they can be used. And I think that's a good paragraph on when it's appropriate.
Is it appropriate for me to comment on these things now, even though it's
Yeah,
already been?
we're
approved?
still-
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, we're still in the meeting.
Okay. So most of this stuff I think is excellent. The rework of the applications to make them simpler, to
Yeah.
send certain things to staff, I think is awesome. One of my big frustrations that led me to be on this board was based on the application and things like that, that seemed to be, fixed with that new iteration. I'm trying to bring up my comments and my iPad's not working, so that's frustrating. Um, hold on, I wanted to see. There's in the paragraph, with the turn metal or standing seam roofs, the mechanical lock standing seam roofs, the second paragraph there. Yeah, mechanical lock standing seam roofs may be used as a replacement for turn metal, see section above. Roofs on non-contributing structures, new construction, or roof replacements on contributing structures with a non-historic roof, asphalt, 5E, et cetera. Is that to be interpreted as that second clause? If you have a new construction, a non-contributing structure, or a replacement on a non-contributing structure with a non-historic roof, you are to use mechanical lock roofs? Or is it saying you can use mechanical lock
Could you,
roofs?
where are you? I'm sorry.
That,
Where you are?
basically that first sentence.
The standing
that
seam
section.
roof or the turn? metal?
Understanding seam.
Okay,
The
so,
second, the second paragraph,
on metal, two metal, standing, may be used, okay, or for turn metal roofs on non-contributing new construction or roof replacement, is that what where you're at?
yeah, basically the second clause, roofs on non-contributing structures, new construction, or
Roof
roof replacements
replacements.
on contributing structures with a non-historic roof.
Okay.
I think
So
it's just
basically
saying,
it's
I think it's just
that-
saying it, those a mechanical
you-
lock standing seam may be used. but
Yeah,
It's
I
not
think
required to be used.
it's not required to be, so if you don't have a historic roof, then this would be
Right, okay,
a reasonable, a good alternative that we
Right,
would
right.
always recommend you do.
okay, good. I wanted to make sure that was the way that was supposed to be interpreted. Most of my feedback was just a lot of excitement over these new applications. I saw that, this is like small change. So I know there's 5 copies that are required for the applicant to provide, and that's probably for us. If you're coming back time after time, I feel like that could get expensive.
I think you're right.
I'm happy. I review these mostly electronically. I don't need copies. I don't need them to spend money on me.
I think that's just, if you want to make that change, we can quickly make it to the application. It's fine with me.
It's hard for me to read on my phone or my computer. I prefer the print copies just because like the ones we got for the building on the new construction proposed, I think Graham Trask building, it was so tiny. I had to use a magnifying glass, even the printed out version. So, I mean, I think we should have some kind of guidelines where we can actually read it.
Well, I think as you get younger, people and time goes by.
Thanks, Mike.
Happens.
Doing it on the computer real good.
We see
I
it,
do, but I'm, you know,
we see a trend though. I mean, some board members want printed copies for that exact reason. I'm one of them as well. But also know how things are changing and also
It
don't
costs
like,
money.
I don't like seeing all this energy
Go to
spent to
architect.
create all these documents. So, I would give up my need for printed copies because for 2 reasons. One, we're doing a better job now getting to the point of final information, right? So they're going to HTRC, they're beating a lot of stuff up there and before it gets to us. So we're not having to disclaim a lot of information when we look at it, right?
that's a good point.
So it's getting to the point now where we're fine tuned.
Mm.
And now it might be that we need 1 set printed for the diocese or 2.
Or maybe 2 copies are printed, one's in the conference room that's available for us to come study prior to the meeting if you
Right.
want to.
I think we could just do one.
I'm just thinking, is it necessary for them to expend all this cost, especially if they're coming multiple times?
I mean, how much does it cost?
Well,
I
you
can
have,
tell you how much it costs.
Well, if I, look,
I can tell you, and it's less than $10.
Cutting into her business.
look, if we told,
No,
hang on.
But I'm just saying, that is, having gone through this process, that was the least of my worries. It was paying the architect to come back 4 and 5 times.
that's true.
All right, so look, this is a good thing, good process to have. If we were to say today, and it doesn't change a future board, that we didn't need hard copies if one was available in the building.
Yeah.
And maybe up until the meeting, it was somewhere, And then at the meeting, it was brought up and put up here. So if I said, well, hang on a minute, let me look at it. Then I could actually ask for the cover page, or I could go dig into it. And then we wouldn't have Julie, who spends a considerable amount of time stacking these documents like she's doing. And I'm guilty of one creating that need because I was,
Me too.
over years, I've always said I can see it better in print.
Mhm.
But I'm willing to do more and come earlier and look at the data. And we just slow the meeting down and look at it if we need to, right?
I think if there's one available for everyone that's downstairs and then an extra one, and somebody could take it home and rotate it a week prior. So if you want a physical copy, you can look at it, but make sure it makes the rounds for other people who want it. At least it's not 5, 2.
Cause I do spread it out on my dining room table and take a look.
Well,
I'm old school.
I know I said it was small fry, but that's my only.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's one piece of the discussion. He's got the forms here, it's improving.
I think, we need direction on that. So if you guys want to give us direction.
We'll give you direction. You want to make it in the form of a motion? Anybody?
I make a motion to modify the HRB application to only require 2 printed copies by the applicant.
Anybody want to second that? And how does, we can second and have discussion. Anybody want to second that? 2 copies. Nobody
Honestly,
second?
I really like having a hard copy. I'm sorry, I'm not looking to spend people's money, but the idea of rotating it, yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
So if you read it online and then you knew there was a copy sitting on the desk when you came in here, that,
If I needed to do that, I would, but I mean, when I look on the computer, it's the same sort of thing. It's like, sometimes it's so small, and the trash project is a perfect example. I couldn't read half of that
Yeah.
stuff.
Press control on your keyboard and.
No, I mean, I was reading mine on the plane.
He'll come over to your house.
Here, trust me, I
and show
tried.
you.
I'll give you a tutorial.
Distorted, it was distorted.
all right, let's hold this part of it for the next
That's
meeting.
fine, that's fine. Yeah.
I actually sent Mike and Eric, although I didn't provide it to you, just internally, we've been meeting and we have an internal process now to handle some minor applications that they can be handled at the counter. That's been unleashed upon our department, so I think that's helping.
I still think this is phenomenal, and I think you guys need a PR department that celebrates the wins and successes so that people
Yeah.
hear about it.
I
That's
don't know
what I think.
if there's any winning up there.
So this is a one-shot form we're seeing here in front of us, right?
But if you have anything at all, just tell us, I'll think about it.
Cool.
And one thing I should note is we probably eventually, it's been a year and it's almost been 2 years now since I've been here, but we're supposed to be going to Energov, which is for building permits and planning and really historic preservation as well. So, I mean, that's a big change, but it just keeps getting delayed from the company that's programming it. So
I'm most excited about that. You can just fill this in online rather than. And you can track permits online, you can see progress.
Oh,
That'd
you
be-
can.
That'd be excellent.
they're fully transparent.
Yeah, it should be, if it goes from this department to that department for review, it should show in progress or it moved from person A to person B. You can see where it is in the
That's how
review
my
process.
system is at work.
That's how it should be. That would
That's how
be
my System is at work.
in
Okay.
2024, that's how it should be.
All right, anything else?
I like that.
Anything else that staff needs us to opine on?
Just November 22nd, Friday.
Next Friday.
Friday.
I think Ms. Wilson said she was giving everyone a ride.
In the big red van.
Actually, I have to drive up. I gotta pick a load of concrete up, so I'll be up.
Well, we'll send another email or two just to coordinate. So.
Excellent.
sounds like
Friday,
everybody's-
22nd, okay.
Maria and Jeremy are gonna work on something. Right?
It's an excuse to go to Costco.
They You go where?
To Costco.
Oh my God.
All right, anything else we need for the agenda's over?
Nope.
Staff, you have anything else you want us to look at? No, okay, well, we need to adjourn. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
Yep. Make a motion to adjourn?
All right, so moved, adjourned.